Welcome back to Kryptolytix, giving you a fresh take on crypto analytics. And this is your crypto recap, where I go over some of the things that I'm seeing in the crypto space. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so here we are. We had the Bitcoin all-time high against the US dollar. Pretty exciting times. We've obviously had a pretty major pullback though, because there would be some key levels up here that people would just have passive sell orders most likely. It will have triggered some old wallets wanting to take profit and things to that effect. A lot of people who were accumulating down here that have finally decided that it's time to take some profits, which, you know, is completely normal and fair. So yeah, we've just got a mixed bag here. There's most likely people who are underwater up here who've decided to close at break even, which is part of the LRA thesis, which is like locked in range analysis, where often when we get to a certain price point, if there are trap traders there, then, or people who bought who have been trapped for, you know, we're talking 3 years. So people who have been sort of underwater on their positions who are finally wanting to take profit at break even. So there's just a number of confluences there as to why we would have pulled back there. But I think one of the major reasons for the pullback also was the open interest in the market. And there was just so many leveraged long positions and even shorts as well, but way too much open interest in the market. And I'll show you that in a second. But this is just the cycle chart showing that, you know, we still could definitely get our 20% pullback, which was sort of what has been people have come to expect now, is these potentially 20% pullbacks every time. You know, we had a 20% pullback here, for example, or this was actually 30% from top to bottom. You know, from here to the top here was about 25%. So these have just sort of been kind of commonplace this time around. But from where we are now, 20% pullback, well, that would be, let's just actually go from the other way so we can get it properly. That would be about 55K, which is still not that far down. And that pulls us into the SMA VWAP bands as well. And, you know, at this point, we can't really draw too many comparisons between past cycles. I wouldn't really draw too many from last cycle, but more so draw more parallels between this cycle and the prior cycle. But it's its own cycle, right? We're in 2024, we're not in 2019, or we're not in 2020, right? That's what most people are talking about, 2020, 2019. I'm going to probably draw more comparisons to the prior cycle. So that's where we broke out above the SMA VWAP bands after the bear market. So this is kind of what we've done now almost, you know? And then we came back to the bottom of the bands, which was, well, this was back when these sorts of moves were a lot more commonplace in Bitcoin, but there's a lot more money in it now, so it takes a lot more to move the market. But, you know, we came back down to the bottom of the bands, held, and then we continued on. And again, that was actually not a pre-halving dump. We actually got a pre-halving pump in 2016. And then we sold off as a sell the news event after the halving. And that's when we had our correction. And then basically by the end of the year, we started to consolidate, and then we continued it up after that. So maybe we'll do something very similar to that, where we'll come down to the bottom of the bands, hold them as support, and then maybe chop around sideways for a little bit and then continue. The other thing as well to consider is that in the last cycle, it took us about a month to break out from the all-time high. So the all-time high was here from the prior cycle, and it took us a month to break past that level. So you can see we bounced off it there, and there was just a lot of rejection and sideways sort of movement. And then we eventually broke out up after that and put in another like 300% or so. So we certainly could have something like that still. You know, we might sort of correct into the halving, or we might do what we did in 2016, where it's a kind of sell the news event, and then maybe we come to, that would just be really long. We would have to be consolidating for a very long time to emulate the same sort of deal. But anyway, coming down to the bottom of the bands, or the bottom of the top bands, I should say, right? Because these are the top bands. But if we emulated what we did in the prior cycle, then that would bring us to about 50K, which again is not too crazy. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. If we do come back down to some of these levels, I would think maybe like a 55 to 50K if we did come down. But we've got the flows, right? This is the biggest thing we need to really keep track of. We've got the flows, the ETF inflows. These are huge. But even we can see here, you know, we're ahead of time for the most part. We can see here's a fractal of 2019, 2021. And there it is there, ghost bars. Very hard to see, but you can kind of see it there. In 15 to the 2015 to 2017 bull market fractal, you can see that that's over there. So we're well and truly ahead of schedule. So it might be time for a bit of a cooling off period, but we don't know yet, right? We don't know yet because we have the flows. So again, this was only a couple of days ago. And you see these ETF inflows. So this was just March, on March the 4th, we had 590 million of net inflows. That is what most likely pushed us to the all-time high against the US dollar. Now I say that because it already broke all-time highs against the euro, against the Australian dollar, the Chinese yuan, nearly every other currency out there. It already broke all-time highs. So it's just finally done it for the US dollar. $7.8 billion of BTC has been bought by these funds, which is just insane. So you can see here, there's going to be some days where the outflows are greater than the inflows, but for the most part, the flows are here, and this is what's just going to keep giving us bullish price moves. So expecting even just expecting consolidation periods and stuff like that at this point, or major pullbacks. I don't think we really can bank on it, to be honest, because with the flows like this, even if we do get pullbacks and stuff like that, they might just get bought up pretty quickly. But I'm still playing a potential pullback anyway, and I'll go into that shortly. But this is just crazy, and these inflows just show us why Bitcoin has just been pushing more and more and more. Some altcoins going up with it, and others sort of rotating back into Bitcoin from profits that they've taken. And I know that even retail understands that as a strategy as well, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin will be here in the long run, but who knows what alts will be here, in the next cycle, so on and so forth. So we are definitely getting capital rotation, but we're getting some notable contenders against Bitcoin still, that's for sure. So let's have a look at the fear and greed index. So we've actually come all the way down to 75. And why do I say that? Well, maybe you already know this, but we hit 90 yesterday on the fear and greed index. Now we can actually get stuck in these high levels for long periods of time. So, just because it's at 90 doesn't mean, that's it, that's the top. In the hypermania of the bull market, we can get pegged up the top for long periods of time. For example, if we have a look back in the last bull market, the fear and greed index, before we even got to the first peak, was hitting 90, 87. Look at this, just getting pinned there for such a long period of time. And then finally, we started coming down a little bit on the first sort of proper correction, which was about 40K roughly. And then the greed actually started to, it's almost like you want to find a fear and greed divergence, right? I don't know if that's an indicator out there. Maybe I'll write it in ChatGPT or something, but and maybe a fear and greed divergence where we have higher highs, but the greed is going down. Well, maybe that's something we could have a look at, right? Or just keep track of, right? Because while it's getting pinned up to the top here, that's just essentially we're just putting in new highs. And then we put in new highs, but the greed is actually going down, I guess, as people sort of lose momentum, right? Getting gassed out from all the dopamine, then that's when we saw our first proper correction for a lengthened period of time. That was the summer lull. So anyway, fear and greed is back down to kind of a bit more reasonable levels, but again, we could just get pinned back up the top there shortly anyway. It just depends, and we're hitting 75 at the moment. So let's have a look at another reason as to why we got the pullback when we did. So we had an insane amount of open interest. Now, it's not the highest it's ever been, of course, right? It's not the highest it's ever been, of course, but it's the highest it's been for a long time. So we haven't seen open interest, which is how many leverage positions are in the market. That could be longs or shorts. We haven't seen it this high, at least on this metric that I'm using, which measures 3 different exchanges. Well, since the entirety of what this can actually even measure. So I guess there's that, but that's at least measuring Binance and a few other exchanges and stuff. But we had open interest at 4.223 billion or thereabouts back here on, that was the all-time high, the peak of the bull market. And guess where we got to yesterday? We got to $6.3 billion in open interest. How crazy is that? So that's just way too much leverage. That's way too many people sort of degenning into positions, and that's just on Bitcoin. So we had a pretty major flush of open interest. We saw a 30% roughly almost pullback on the open interest. 1.3 billion in rec longs just on these 3 exchanges that it measures, which again is BitMEX. Don't know if many people use BitMEX anymore. Maybe they do, but Kraken and Binance. So there's more than that, obviously, but those are the 3 that this indicator here is measuring. So that's one of the reasons why we did get our pullback, is that when open interest is this high, volatility can become huge because market makers will wait for the perfect time to pull the rug, because if there's this much froth in the market and funding rates hitting 100% APR across multiple coins, right? So that's just insane. That's really, really high. We haven't seen that, well, at least since Feb. I wish I could go back a little bit further. Let's go back the last 6 months so we can get some perspective. This is the most long everyone was for the last 6 months, and I can't really go back any further than that, but literally yesterday, more people were long on just about everything. I mean, this is across multiple coins and tokens, but we had an extreme amount of long positions open, and you can see it's green now, which means we've had a leverage flush, which generally means that we can probably keep going for the most part up, because a lot of those positions have been taken out, which is something the market makers do. They just will do that time and time and time again, just to get positions out of the market and to pay back all of that money that's been borrowed to open those positions, because that's what leverage is. You're basically borrowing from a broker in order to create and open up larger positions than you actually have the money for. So this is healthy, bit of a reset, and this is kind of normal. And we haven't broken any crazy structure or anything like that yet on Bitcoin. You know, we still are holding this amount of structure. Pretty big wick though, pretty big wick. Talking about 20% corrections though, if you want to talk about from top to tail, that was almost 20%, and that's on the OKX chart here. So I did get a signal to open a short, and my last one was stopped out at 58K for my shorts. Now, the last two have been pretty bad. And again, as I mentioned in my last video, these are just small positions that are open for farming drift points. And this strategy has been 80% profitable. So 80% of the time I win trades, and the other 20% are losses. And so this is sort of bringing that down. It was 92%, but you know, it's trying to short on the way up, which is, you know, typically in a bull market, in a raging bull market, is typically not a good strategy, but I'm plenty long on the other side to counteract any potential losses on this one. So I wouldn't recommend using strategies like this unless you're well and truly hedged, right? And I did post on X. I just said I decided to open a tiny short on Bitcoin hedged with Solana long on drift for fun. And why? To try feel the cope Gareth will be dealing with. Yeah, and probably feels a little bit better today after the pullback, but we're nowhere near sort of, I think his average open price on his short was 57K or something like that. So we certainly could still go down there, but I don't think the profit will be much. It'll probably be a break even and close, but we'll have to see anyway. I think his stop loss was acceptance above 72K. So this is my opinion. BTC goes higher. Stop loss, I believe, was acceptance above 72K, which I think is coming soon. This rate, very bullish. Someone who's just shorted, I must admit. So I started scaling to my position at 67, and then I added to it just this morning when I got the signal. So my average open on my short is about 65K. I don't know. I will stop out and when I hit my stop loss, which is, I think, up here, but I'll have to wait for it to start printing on the chart before I know exactly where it is. But anyway, overall, I'm still bullish. We haven't broken structure. Path is still up. If we start to break structure, which would be, I guess, acceptance here at 61K is when we might start to see some moves to the downside. And we pretty much don't want to go below 50K at this point, because that would just be a complete break of structure, and that would be probably a bad sign. But at this stage, based on structure, even if we do come down here and, you know, trickle down a little more, it doesn't really matter. Even if we come down 55K or 52 or something like that, still fine. It's still completely fine. So, you know, I think that after that, then that's when we sort of start to enter that accumulation sort of area where we kind of track sideways. Things get a bit boring. Altcoins start to rip. Memes do another season, all that sort of stuff. And then Bitcoin just keeps going. But maybe that won't even happen, and the flows will just keep pushing this thing further up and up and up. So we'll have to see. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we can see what might happen based on the data. The other thing I wanted to mention was the market cap. So that's total crypto market cap. So that's everything, including stable coins. Just actually hit its $2.45 trillion level, which was a top here. So I had a line in here. I did a post on X and I was like, you know, in past cycles, we got rejected at the 2019 point, which was this. And I said, will this reject again? And the answer is no, it didn't at all. Maybe you could say it was this one, right? First sort of major point, and it just ignored that and went to the next one and then pulled back. Maybe that's what we'll get. But anyway, so that would be the equivalent of ignoring this one for this one, and then finding the next point as the structural top for this little head and shoulders here on the, again, total crypto market cap. And now we have potentially our point for the, at least a rest potentially. But again, with the flows, it's just the flows. It's just so hard to know, right? With all that money coming in. So this is just on the weekly chart, just so you can see the perspective. we've had a pretty big range. We've had about $373 billion price range, or about $400 billion price range from top to tail, or top to tail bottom, if you will, on this week. So that's a pretty big range on the total crypto market cap. Some interesting news on the crypto front, the broader space. We have the BRICS nations looking to crypto for cross-border settlement. So it's blockchain more so. So yeah, blockchain adoption is real. Just not confirmed yet, obviously. But we've got the news on it. Got this on radar hits. But yeah, just in BRICS to launch independent payment system based on cryptocurrency and blockchain. Again, not confirmed yet, and it's not necessarily Bitcoin based, unfortunately. I mean, if they use Bitcoin, then that would be insane, but I think they'll just probably do their own thing. But I think it's to try and bypass sanctions, or, because BRICS is sort of the birth of the multipolar world, if you will. So that's just, because US is kind of the dominant financial system with the US dollar and everything like that. But this is kind of like just going to show that blockchain adoption doesn't necessarily need to rely on the US in order for it to take place. And yeah, anyway, just kind of interesting news on that front. So yep, more blockchain adoption. BRICS is a ever-growing collective of, I guess you could say, the global south, but Russia is not part of the global south technically. But yeah, Brazil, India, South Africa, and China, they classify themselves as global south anyway, like South America and all that sort of stuff. So it's interesting. It's very interesting, I think. And won't go into too much of the weeds on the politics side of stuff, because I'm not Kryptolytix, I'm Kryptolytix. But anyway, it's definitely interesting to see developments on that front. Some of the trackers, like the Airdrop tracker and the Solana watch, for example, are starting to show points. So this is just a couple of my example wallets in here that I took on this day, on the 3rd of March. I don't know, these actually have gone up quite a bit because I used the new pull on Camino, and I'll show that pull in a second, but this is pretty cool. So you can add your wallets. I've got like a bundle in here that shows a whole bunch. I'll show a couple of portfolio trackers actually. So here's Sonar Watch. This is kind of what it looks like. You can add Aptos, you can add Solana, Say, and Sui, plus EVM chains as well. Works if you add an EVM wallet. This is just the demo one. My other one's on my computer, my other computer. Got 3 here in front of me. Is that over the top? I don't know. They're all for different things. So this portfolio tracker is really cool. Shows you points for Camino, Drift, and stuff on Aptos. And I think Navi is on Say. So yeah, you can see some of your points in here, which is really cool. And I'll show the other one shortly, but I'll go into another portfolio tracker, which I found, which is really, really, really cool. Reason being is it supports many networks, but doesn't support Solana network, unfortunately, right now. They are down for maintenance, I believe. So if you add you can still add your Solana wallets to this, and when they start to work, they will work and show. But this supports NEAR. Let's have a look at the chains that are supported. So it's got Injective. I was trying to find a good Injective portfolio tracker, and it's got Astroport, Black Panther, Dojo Swap, Helix, which is amazing, Hydro Protocol, Injective, Levana, and YY. So that's all of the main ones, really. That's all the main ones. So really cool way to track your Injective portfolio. Say as well. Really, really nice. Osmosis. Kujira, if you're part of that. Not even going to mention Terra. I don't know if people are still using it, but anyway. Celestia, you can add your Celestia wallet. Again, you can copy it from your Kepler wallet. You just go to your Kepler wallet, click on each chain, copy your wallet address and pop it into this tracker. And you would just basically go up to here and click connect wallet. Or you can just go here to manage and then click here on bulk actions and just paste all your wallets here, just comma separated. So just paste a wallet address, right? And then separate it with a comma, and that's the next one. And that's the next one. You know what I mean? Like, so comma separated values, and just paste them all in here from your MetaMask, from your Phantom wallet, from your Kepler, whatever you've got. And then click validate, and it'll find all of them and add it to your portfolio, which is really, really cool. So yeah, this is not my portfolio, just so you know, this is a demo portfolio. I don't have $2.6 million on chain, but yeah, anyway, I think it's really cool. And yeah, just a really nice sort of one-stop shop that shows not everything, obviously, but a lot of stuff that you've got in your portfolio. Just a nice, quick and easy way to keep track of that. Doesn't show points, does show some NFTs and stuff though. So yeah, anyway, just thought I'd bring that. So in the Solana ecosystem, we're going to cover some things here. Now, some of these posts are a little bit older now because I haven't done a crypto recap since probably about just over a week because I've been very busy with another project, but we'll just go over it all anyway because I think some of it's still definitely relevant. Now, I actually rotated some of my WIF here. So I have a position that I opened down the bottom there, which was up about 230%. So I've rotated some of my WIF, half of my position, into Solana. So again, Solana might go down anyway, so I could just sell into stable coins, but I decided to just rotate half of my position of WIF into Solana at this point here, 1.662. So anyway, I'm still holding half of my WIF. It was a lot, so I was like, well, I think it's probably time to sell some of this because yeah, it was a lot. So I was just like, well, I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm still holding a lot of it, but you know, you've got to take profit and rotate some of your memes into picks and shovels or things with high fundamentals that will last a test of time. At some point, there'll be another meme season. Don't worry about that. You know, even if this is the top for memes, that doesn't matter because there'll most likely be another meme season, and there probably will keep being meme seasons, to be honest. You know, I mean, even have a look. I mean, this is not Solana, obviously, but even look at Pepe. Pepe's gone up crazy amount. Pepe put in all new all-time high. Did 554%. The memes, they're just insane, right? So this is a bot that I've got. This was up 4,000% on my bot. I'm like, what the hell? It's just absolutely insane. And that was on $50. So again, tiny like dust sort of position sizing. But this is still holding the long, and the flip for this one will be down here. That will be a shame if it just goes all the way down there because that's 100% gone. But still, at the end of the day, that's still up 161%. But yeah, I was thinking of closing this one, but I'm just gonna let it play out, see what happens. Because if flows come back for Bitcoin, then I'm sure that people will keep aping into memes. But yeah, so WIF, that's where I, right here, 6.6. So it went up a little bit more after my post, but 6.6 is where I rotated. There it is there. And I don't have a short open for WIF. This is just something that displays on my strategy. The other thing as well was when I took profit on when as well. Again, my position was here and I didn't close it immediately. I closed here, so it was 200%. Really nice. I only added a small amount of WIF, when. So put in about $900 US worth there on top of already my airdrops, which I haven't sold my airdrops at all. And then got the sign to sell there. And then I basically waited to the top of that candle and then sold it there. Went up a little bit. And now I'm waiting to buy back lower, hopefully. So, you know, if we get an extended sort of drawdown period here, maybe that's the sort of rest period for meme season. Because the last time was here, for example, in Feb. And then we went for about half a month, roughly, before it started to pick up again. So maybe we get that again. And yeah, I might just actually turn on DCA. Just take profit I made from this and just DCA it back into the market. So I don't mind doing stuff like that, personally. Now, ecosystem development. So here is Dither. I've mentioned this on a few of my videos before. They're just posting updates on this, a glimpse of their premium offering. And this is their prediction data versus real data for something that they were looking at. And I think that's pretty accurate, right? That's pretty accurate for time series future price predictions. It's not too bad. It's a little bit of a discrepancy there, obviously, on the other side, but I mean, that's pretty good, I think, overall. So even I've used ChatGPT to trade and stuff before, and it's pretty good. It gives some pretty good insight on what to do when you give it a chart with just open interest and volume and say, what do I do with this? And you've trained it in the chat to know what to look for. It can give you some pretty good entry and exit. So these guys are doing some cool stuff. Onto some airdrop news. We have the Drift Protocol and Parcel airdrops potentially in April. This is confirmed so far, but yep, I guess we'll just say, April's the one to watch for Drift and Parcel. So yep, Drift points and all that sort of stuff. I mean, this is like points farming for both of them. I've got some points for both, probably more in Drift than Parcel, but it's always something that's worth, using some of these protocols because you don't know how big the airdrops will be. I mean, Jitto, I think, is a good example of one where you didn't have to do much to get a decent amount of money, but obviously there's no confirmation on what we'll actually get from these. But April next month is the sort of one to watch for at least these two protocols. Parcel will have a 1 billion token supply, and they'll be giving 7 to 8% of it to the community, and then they'll put 10% of it into circulation. So, I mean, only 10% will be circulating, I think. Maybe it's a total of 17 or 20% or something like that, which means low supply means that price can do some pretty impressive things if sentiment allows for it. Like if we're kind of bearish in April, then that might not look so good. But, if April looks all right, then I think that we might still see some decent price action on Parcel, but we'll have to see. And we'll have to see what the airdrop will be as well. So just another one to watch. And with things like Drift, if you can just wash if you really want to get drift points, so just open up and close positions. But it's if you really want to do that, you'll incur fees and stuff like that. But we don't know, maybe the Drift airdrop will be really good, so maybe it's worth doing that. For me, I'd just prefer to trade normally rather than just wash volume through the protocol, but it's up to you how you want to do it, because washing volume through protocols is definitely a way to get volume. I've done it for airdrops before, like Manta, and I was rewarded for it pretty handsomely. So and I didn't even wash trade on Jupiter, but that was volume based, and that was a really nice airdrop. So it's something you can do if you want to, but again, there'll be slippage, there'll be fees, all sorts of stuff. I mean, if it's just tiny positions, you'll have to be in and out of positions constantly. You might lose a bit of money from that sort of stuff. So just be careful doing that, because there are fees every time you open trades if you're considering wash trading for the Drift protocol airdrop. Now, some of you may have heard of AVO before. On other videos, AVO show pre-market prices or it's pre-market trading for certain tokens, like Jupiter was on there, Judo was on there, and there's others. Now it looks like Drift is alluding to doing the same thing, which will be really cool, because Avo's not on the Solana network. So this will be the first pre-market, or besides Whales market, but this will be the first proper perpetuals based pre-token launch trading on Solana. So that'll be really cool, I think. So that's the first hint there. And here's the second hint. So there we go, decoded message received, introducing pre-launch market. So there you go. That's going to be on Drift, and yeah, that's going to be a place where you can go and trade the potential price for a token before it's even listed. So anyway, that's another place you can go and like sell your airdrop. If you've got airdrop allocations, you can just short at a price that you think is reasonable. But I mean, from what I've seen, these sort of go up into the drop and only then sort of come down, but we'll definitely have to see what happens. But this is just another place you can go and, preempt your selling your airdrop, as well as the Whales market, and there's a few others as well, Avo and stuff like that. So it's another one to add to the list to go around and see what the pre-launch prices for tokens are. So Jupiter have their DAO now. So they have a DAO. They've got a test vote at the moment, which is which animal is the cutest. I think it's got like tiger, cat, a bunch of others as well, but it's just a test like they do with everything, right? So that's the test vote. You can go to vote.jupe.ag if you want, and that's where you can lock up your tokens. Now, there are actually rewards to people who do that. So there's a full post, Jupiter posts on X tend to be pretty wordy. So, bear that in mind. I'll do some TLDRs, I guess. So this is kind of what it looks like. And you can lock up your Jupiter. And this is the test vote. Which animal is the cutest? Cats, tigers, lions, or raccoons? I actually voted for cats. You can see I've actually put half of my Jupe in here, or the other half is throughout the ecosystem. But that's my vote. I just voted for cats because I think that was what most people will vote for. 81% is cats, and other people are going for raccoons. It's actually considering voting for raccoons, but anyway, it's just a test, right? It's just a test. So the things you'll get is we'll get 75% launchpad fees from future LFG launches, by locking up in the DAO, and there is a 30-day unlock period, so keep that in mind. By locking up in the DAO, we'll get some additional rewards. So again, it's 100 million Jupe in rewards to go to people who are voting and using this platform, and then 75% of launchpad fees also, I believe, will be rewarded to people using this. So anyway, just thought I would cover that. So there's your launchpad voting. That's probably where we'll be able to go and vote for projects to launch next. And here's some additional information here. As I said, there's the 75% of launchpad fees and stuff like that. So really, really cool. Another one was Clone, which is cloned assets on Solana. That's one of the first launchpads, which will likely have an airdrop. So that's why I put liquidity in here personally, and they will be on the launchpad from what I remember reading. So they've just got clone assets. So these are CL ARB, CL Optimism, and CL Sui. So these are pegged to, like everything else, there's point system. So, I've got 333 points. I actually provided liquidity in this protocol. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I've just put some liquidity under Sui and ARB. Essentially, that's how it maintains its peg. And it's slightly leveraged liquidity as well. So there is risk by going too hard on this, but I've basically just put some down. You get a tiny bit of APR. But the main thing I'm doing is farming points. So they're going to be on the LFG launchpad. So it's definitely one to watch, even if you don't want to participate in this. You can also get points by trading, so you can trade the clone assets. So that's another way to get points in clone. So anyway, just thought I'd bring that one up, as they will be a launchpad participant and will likely get a fair bit of attention as a result of it. Because anything on Jupiter is definitely worth paying attention to. Now, also MarginFi is talking about March being a big month. So maybe we'll hear some more stuff from the MarginFi team about the airdrop for MarginFi. So again, MarginFi is another money market similar to Camino, and mostly at the moment it's speculation on airdrops and all that sort of stuff with MarginFi, but I've got some assets in there just to farm points. So So anyway, that's another one to watch for this month. We've only just started March, so we might get some more news on that one shortly. Speaking of money markets, there is a new pool in Camino, and I did mention this briefly before. So at the moment, or when I posted this, there's the JLP market. So JLP is the Jupiter Liquidity Pool token, which is a bit of a savings account, if you will. You can actually put it down in here in Camino in an isolated pool, and you can also earn a fair bit of APY with PITH rewards by putting USDC or JLP in here. And it's got 5x points boosts, and APY is really crazy on JLP. It's already really high. I already showed Boost in my last video, which also is really high APY, but this is just additional APY, so pretty insane. And another thing I'm doing to farm points on MarginFi is I've put some SOL. This is one of my wallets here out of several, but I put some SOL down as collateral and borrowed SOL against it. So it'll always be quite healthy unless there's a crazy depeg on BSOL. So BSOL's borrowing rate is only 0.52%. So I borrowed some BSOL against my Solana assets, so the basket here, and put that into MarginFi to farm points. So that's another way you can safely, relatively safely, farm points on other protocols is by borrowing a like asset that should be relatively pegged, and then you also get points for borrowing as well. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. That's the pool there. So it's at about 23% on USDC at the moment. Normal pool has, I think it's, 30%, really high. I think a lot of people have pulled out of this pool to put into the other pool because it's got a 5x points boost. So it kind of makes sense for people who are just putting assets in here and not actually borrowing against them, because the MarginFi airdrop could be bigger than you think. Now, this is actually just a post from Solana Floor, which is a new site, and they've done a thread here about how to maximize allocation, I believe. Well, it's a full post here. So here's some stuff that they recommend. So they're actually literally doing the same thing that I mentioned. So yeah, so borrow Jito Sol against your supplied B Sol or M Sol. I'm doing the other way around, borrowing B Sol against my Jito and Sol. So anyway, they actually talk about this as well. So there you go. I wasn't the first to mention this for sure. And it just kind of makes sense though, to be honest, logically. But Solana Floor did a nice little write-up here, essentially on how to sort of maximize your airdrop allocation for MarginFi. And I think that MarginFi is probably underfarmed compared to Camino. So that's another thing worth considering as well. So Jupe holders also got a airdrop for something called, I think it's Basket, BSKT. And you can check your eligibility by going to the airdrop checker, which I mentioned before, which also has the points now, right? So you can see here, there's Drift, Switchboard, and Camino points that it can track. And there's BSKT. So you can pop your Solana address in here and see if you're eligible for Basket, and it's a vested scheduled airdrop for that one. So it'll just be like trickling out over time for that airdrop. But come in here to the Solana-airdrop-checker.solworks.dev, and you can see what your Camino points are and Drift points, and also see if you've got this BSKT airdrop as well. Something kind of cool, Sol Chat Coin introduced audio calls feature on Solana. So allowing wallet-to-wallet communication using WebRTC. That's really cool. I think that's really cool. And not at all surprised, something like this being on Solana with, Anatoly Yakovenko used to work at Qualcomm, who make chips for cell phones. So it kind of makes sense as well. Helium is another thing that makes sense to be on Solana. All that sort of thing in terms of deep-in. Something interesting I saw on Guoc is we have an on and off ramp without the need of a centralized exchange thanks to Guoc. So they actually have a way for you to buy and sell using normal cards and stuff like that here using Kato. It's probably some fees though, so just keep that in mind, but it's kind of cool. Way to onboard and offboard, if you will, into the Solana ecosystem without the need of a exchange, which is always nice to see. Another thing I thought I would mention is we've got that pullback happening right in the market, and there's some things that's still performing all right. Well, Edgar probably wouldn't mention this because it went up like 1500% and then it's actually come back down a lot, so that doesn't mean much. It's a very low market cap, but in terms of things that are still doing okay even after this pullback, is we've got DITH, so that's still up 92% even after this pullback, which is actually pretty impressive, to be honest. Not to say that won't just pull back at some point. It's looking like people are starting to take profit on it. Yeah, there's the daily chart. Yeah, yesterday went up about 86%, but yeah, people taking profit on it now. So down a little bit from the highs there, but yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. I like DITH, and I can't wait to use it properly. Still working it all out, to be honest, but I think it's going to give a real edge to some of the meme coin degens, having some sort of AI tool to help pick entries and exits based on AI. I think it's really cool. Now, another thing. So I did that full video on Injective. Now, Injectives hasn't even run yet, but let's be honest. Like, the ecosystem's barely had a chance. Injective's definitely one that's still worth watching, but it looks like people from the highs here were taking a pretty aggressive profit. I feel like this could potentially be the devs, maybe. I'm not sure, I can only speculate, but you know, they created the Baby Dojo token, right? And they will always lock up almost rules for getting qualified for the airdrop. So it was almost like they were kind of, if this was how it played out, which I'm not saying it is, it could just be people taking profit or even investors taking profit. Like if they had a funding round, then the VCs for the project might have started taking profit around this event. But you know, creating buy pressure into an event and then the sell the news sort of deal where they start to take profit before the snapshot date, because the snapshot date was like here for Baby Dojo. So that just goes to show that the selling pressure started before the snapshot date. So people with large holdings who have been holding this, you know, since near the bottom and stuff like that, probably taking profit there too around the news. So sell the news events are very common, not just in crypto, but you know, across most markets. But now that the airdrop snapshot period has been taken on Dojo Swap for Baby Dojo, which again was like 41 cents for every dollar, essentially is what you get airdropped in Baby Dojo. Now that that's done, I think people are probably taking profit on their dojo. But I'm going to hold this. And the reason why I haven't sold any of my dojo yet is because I think that in the proper altcoin season, when we start seeing alts really run across the spectrum and start to actually break their all-time highs, I think Injective is going to do very well. And then liquidity will flow into the ecosystem coins as well. So that's why I'm holding this, and I'll probably accumulate some more. If we keep bleeding, I'll wait for a floor. When I see something that looks like it might be a floor on the chart, then I will start to accumulate again. But I'm not just going to buy knives on this one, as in buy a falling knife. I'm going to wait for some sort of base to stabilize and then go from there personally. But I think when I did the video on Injective, we were right here at $1. So if you aped into it then and there, I'm sorry if you did. But this thing for me, and I kind of mentioned this in the video as well, but this is like sort of a long-term play for me. It's not something I'm just going to kind of buy and sell and that's it, I'm out, I'm done. For me, I think that the Dojo team are doing some really good things. So I'm personally just going to buy more of this and wait for the proper alt season for any exit strategies on my dojo. Again, we have time to plan our exits on this one. Neptune Finance on Injective had a accolade that adds 3% to your modifier for points. So again, this is a money market on Injective where you can collateralize assets and borrow against them, basically like Camino and MarginFi, like we were just talking about before. So this is one on Injective, and I've got this accolade because I bought ETH and I put it down as collateral, essentially, so I could get this accolade, lend or borrow $10 of ETH in the first week. So you didn't really need that much, to be honest, to do this. So there's the accolade there. If we come over to Neptune, you can see I don't have it yet, but I did put some ETH in there so that I could qualify for it. I don't really have much collateral in here. It's like $300. It's not really a lot. Also for Injective stakers and Celestia stakers too, we have a meme coin. It's a dog with sunglasses on, and it's called Hava. And this one has its eligibility checker up now. So come over to my page, you'll be able to find this post where I did reshare it. And you can see what your allocation will be just by popping your Injective or Celestia address in. Other addresses as well, it's got Atom, Injective, Osmo, Juno, Celestia, and you know these other ones as well. So at least $100 worth of Atom or Celestia, for example, is how you get eligible for this airdrop. So pretty cool. I don't know how well this will be, but if this is on all of these chains, this dog coin, I guess it's going to be pretty good and probably one to watch, but we'll have to see how it all goes, right? The snapshot period was on the 2nd of Feb. So it's whatever you were staking at that time is what you will be airdropped. So 2.5% of the supply will be dropped to stakers. So not a huge airdrop, but still something. I reposted this last week about a roll app on Dimension. So again, this is a Cosmos ecosystem chain. So that's why I thought I would bundle this in with the rest of the Cosmos stuff. So this is NIM, and this will be a roll app, and most likely we'll get airdrops for the stakers of Dimension. So this is NIM Network, first roll app launch on Dimension. And here's some information on this project. So the NIM rollup will combine the latest in blockchain technology with gaming fundamentals to create experiences that are both crypto native and fun. NIM will be the first rollup powered by Dimension and Celestia data availability technology underneath and based on the Ethereum virtual machine. So the NIM token will be the native token for the rollup, and it'll be used for transaction fees. So it's used for gas and staking, with Dimension, USDT, and USDC used for applications as well. And 9% will be going to the Genesis roll drop, is what they're calling it. So instead of airdrop, they're calling it a roll drop. It's a rollup, and that'll be fully unlocked at Genesis. So yeah, I'm guessing we'll be getting a allocation to this, which was really cool. And they'll have incentives for DAO participation as well. That's 10% of the total supply for that. So this is one I'm going to do a bit more research on, I think, and look into it because it actually pertains to something that I'm working on right now. So anyway, long and short, TLDR is another potential airdrop. So that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, then please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and hit that bell notification if you want to be alerted when videos come out by me. And go give me a follow on X if you want the latest updates on what I'm seeing in the crypto space. And I'll see you on the next one. This is Kryptolytix signing out. Have a good one.